Okay, it's 11:02, so let's go ahead and plan to get started. And Jackson, you can just allow people in. We've got more pouring in the middle of this. So thank you, everyone who showed up. We're excited today to discuss interviewing and employment opportunities within fisheries. We're going to start out with this interviewing tips presentation, and then we'll move into our professional panel, which just gives our panelists an opportunity to discuss employment opportunities within their respective agencies and sectors. And we hope you got some questions ready to ask our folks at the end. So we'll have about 5 to 10 minutes for Q&A. So without further ado, for anyone out there looking for job opportunities in the workforce, for graduate school, this will hopefully be a good tool for you to use as we're moving forward and looking for opportunities to advance a career. So I'm going to provide the basic overview of each of these steps. And if you want additional information, we've got a lot on our website, georgiaafs.org/interviewing tips. So, but we're going to go over the 5 steps to a successful interview right now. So the first one obviously is going to be preparing early. So you most likely research the organization that you've applied to before you applied. So after you've gotten an interview, you want to learn more about the organization and the job that you're interviewing for. So does the organization have a website? Most do. You can check out information on the organization's history, their mission, notable accomplishments, and then their mission statement to make sure that you understand what that company's aiming towards, and you can convey your similar interest there. Check their social media to investigate the company's presence on platforms like LinkedIn, Twitter, or Facebook to gain additional insights, news updates, and employees' perspective. You want to speak mostly to the positive news. I would say if you're going to speak to any current negative news out there, offer something in the way of a solution to that. And then review the job description again, just to make sure that your experiences and accomplishments align with the specific needs of the company. And this research will help you come up with topics to discuss or questions to ask during the interview. So most interviews end with, do you have any questions for me? So you need to prepare at least a few questions to ask the interviewer, and don't leave without asking a few questions. So asking the interviewer questions demonstrates you have intent, that you prepared ahead of time. Asking a question about the organization or the job that was not covered during the earlier discussion, such as questions about professional development opportunities or the onboarding process. And you want to use words such as me and I that'll help the interviewer visualize you in the job that you're applying for. So what would a typical day for me in this role look like? Or can you tell me about the team that I will be working with? And generally avoid asking questions about salary at this point, unless the interviewer brings it up. So one of the most important things you can do to prepare for an interview is to practice. Interview preparation takes a lot of time. So you want to practice common interview questions. Often the first question asked is just to tell a little bit about yourself. They're behavioral questions. This is an opportunity for you to showcase your skills and experience through real life experiences. And we recommend using the STAR method, which asks you to describe a situation where you were challenged with a certain task, the action you took, and the result. For more on applying this method, check out our website, and be conscious of nonverbal cues and your body language. So you want to sit up straight, display confidence, and maintain eye contact with your interviewer without staring at them the entire time. Mock interviews are a great way to practice. It's low pressure, it strengthens your skills, builds confidence. A mock interview can be conducted by a friend or colleague, face-to-face or virtually, and virtually might be preferred where you're obviously doing a virtual interview because it is a little bit more of a different format than the traditional in-person interview. We've got some information on the Georgia AFS website, a list of typical interview questions, and a constructive feedback checklist for a mock interviewer. And remember that you should be asking for the mock interviewer for feedback on how you did, and not asking the actual interviewer how your interview went. That's a little too late at that point. So know the location of your interview. This is key to preparing early. We often hear people forgetting to show up for an interview or getting lost going to an interview. On your calendar, you need to include the time and address of the interview. And depending on the location, you may need to figure out where you're parking. While planning the route for your interview, consider the time of day, morning traffic, school buses, road construction can all cause delays. And then plan to arrive early, 10 to 15 minutes. And obviously, if you're running late, you want to call the interviewer and let them know your circumstances. And then the day before your interview, you want to gather all the materials that you'll need. So this may include extra copies of your CV or resume in case there's more than one interviewer, directions to the interview, printed out directions in case you're having issues with navigation or service, 3 to 5 questions that you prepared in advance for the interviewer, written down in a notebook, pen and paper to take notes with a pen that works, extra copies of references, have on hand if needed, and all these things neatly organized into a bag, briefcase, or padfolio. What things you don't want to bring to an interview are your pet, unless it's a service dog, a friend, a parent, colleague. If you do have to be driven to the interview, ask those folks to wait in the car. Turn your cell phone off or just leave it in the car so it's not a distraction while you're interviewing. And just if you need something, bring water. Don't bring snacks or coffee, soda, anything of that nature into the interview with you. All right, so moving on from preparation to first impressions, which are obviously the first and most important that you'll make with your potential employer. This is a really essential process. So first is just dressing appropriately, whether it's face-to-face or virtual. I can say that we tend to see people actually dress up for interviews more frequently in person than virtual, but regardless of the format, you should still dress appropriately. Business casual is normally acceptable, making sure that your clothes are clean and wrinkle-free. Avoid strong perfume or cologne that might be distracting because some people are really sensitive to strong smells. And then just generally go easy on accessories and keep it neat and simple. What you don't want to wear are revealing clothes, clothes with holes, hats, t-shirts, baggy pants, clothes that are too tight, like you just left the gym, workout clothes, sunglasses, and cutoff shorts. And obviously, we wouldn't recommend jean shorts from Georgia anyway. Arrive 10 to 15 minutes early, and before walking into the building, silence your phone, or better yet, just leave it in the car. Check your appearance, like your hair, teeth, zipper even. And secretly, one recommendation we make is to try a power pose to calm your mind, increase your self-assurance. And this is actually a scientifically tested and proven way to increase your confidence during the interview, increase your stature, and actually increase the quality of the interview. We have some really cool information on this, the benefits of the power pose on our website, so feel free to check that out. And then most importantly, with first introductions is a nice, firm introductory handshake, making eye contact, smiling with a strong, clear voice. It needs to be firm but not overpowering. Call the interviewer by their name and then give them your name. So the whole point of the interview is to sell yourself. So that's the next step in the interview process. Interviewers listening to your answers, reading your body language. You want to practice with a friend or colleague, which can make you aware of how your body language may be a tell to the interviewer that you're either uncomfortable or that you're not answering this question in a way that conveys confidence. Sit up straight in a chair, never lean back, make eye contact, and genuine natural smiles are one of the best way to show interest in the job. As far as being prepared for questions, usually the first question asked is to tell me about yourself. This is an opportunity to set yourself apart from other candidates, but you want to keep this on a professional level. The question might mislead you into going personally into your reply, but you want to keep this question related to your career. So summarize your current job title, one recent achievement relative to the job that you're applying for. You may want to highlight your previous work experiences related to this job, powerful examples and situations aligned with the job description requirements, and make it clear to the employer why you're choosing to apply for this job now and how your career path aligns with that. For this question, folks can tend to carry on for a while, so you do want to keep it short and try to keep it within 2 minutes. So when you're answering interview questions, just general tips, you don't want to ever lie about your abilities. If you're looking for a job that requires you, for example, to know how to operate a tractor, then you should learn or know how to do that before your interview. Be conscious of your body language as you're moving your hands too much, speaking too loudly or not loudly enough. And one big thing is to never speak poorly of former bosses or co-workers. That is a huge turnoff and a red flag for anyone interviewing. So keep it professional, keep it positive, and just sell yourself on the skills relevant to the job. Lastly, you want to ask questions. So the wrong thing to do is to not ask at least one question when the interviewer asks if you have questions, because this is a part of your interview process. You want to have those 3 to 5 questions prepared ahead of time. If those were answered during the interview process, you might ask a go-to question like, what does the next step of this process look like? Or consider a follow-up question based on what you discussed during the interview. You want to be respectful of the interview's time. Don't ask more than 3 to 4 questions. And then, of course, there's the follow-up. So within 24 to 48 hours, we recommend sending an email that's brief, sincere, address the email to the person that you interviewed, make sure you spell their name correctly, thank them for their time and consideration, briefly highlight your draw to the organization and call out an aspect of the conversation that was interesting, or share a helpful hook to help them remember what you spoke about, and just express your continued interest in the job opportunity and offer to answer any further questions. So again, 24 to 48 hours, you want to send this follow-up email. So in conclusion, we've got this list of do's and don'ts. You want to prepare ahead of time, practice interviewing with a friend if possible, emphasize that first impressions are important, so dress appropriately, have a nice firm handshake. During the interview, sell your strengths and expertise with specific examples. Don't lie. Ask at least one question when the interviewer asks you if you had questions, and follow up with an email. And specifically on this list of don'ts, it's basically the converse of the do's. So that is the end of this portion of the Lunch and Learn today. For more information, visit our website. And we'll now move on to our professional panel. This is Dr. Jamie Roberts. He's a professor of fisheries at Georgia Southern University, and he's going to talk to you about employment opportunities for students and professionals at GSU.
Well, I'm going to try to. Okay. Yeah, so hi everybody. So grad school is a different animal from all these other sectors that are going to talk. So I took a little bit different tack, I guess, and started a little earlier in the process than just the interview phase. And I'm not going to talk at all about the Georgia Southern experience. We're just one of a lot of different places that you might go to grad school, albeit the best, I guess. Yeah, so I'm an associate professor in the biology department at Georgia Southern. Right off the bat, you can see something that I will point out, that you don't necessarily have to get a degree in fisheries in order to do fisheries work. So like Hunter, I made a PowerPoint, but unlike Hunter, I made a very ugly and boring one that's not very colorful. So hopefully I'll compensate by the lack of visual stimulation with good information. So I've kind of divvied this up into 3 phases. First off, deciding where you want to try to cast your net to find a place to go to graduate school. And I guess I'm really aiming more at the master's level here, assuming that might be where more people are at. So starting there, where is the best place to go to graduate school, and what are we trying to achieve here? Great places to look for potential graduate opportunities. Job boards, of course, everybody hypes the Texas A&M job board, and they should. It's probably the best one-stop shop for grad school opportunities out there, but also look at other society boards like the AFS and other scientific societies tend to post those opportunities. Get on the Ecolog listserv and other listservs. Sometimes things get posted there. Your mentors, wherever you are now, might find out about things before they ever see the light of day on any sort of job board or listserv. So make sure you take advantage of your professional network. Let them know you're looking so they can help you look. But then don't look only for posted positions. There's plenty of people who end up finding a graduate position that never got posted officially. Word of mouth is really powerful. I'd say probably only about half the graduate positions I've hired over the years have ever actually been posted. Sometimes there's just right place, right time, person contacts me, and it works out. So cast a broad net, I suppose, is good lesson there. You'll have to make some decisions along the way. There's some important forks in the road. Do you want to focus kind of specifically on getting a quote fisheries degree from a fisheries program, or cast more broadly in a biology degree or marine biology or aquatic science or ecology or even just biology? There's only one designated fisheries program in the state of Georgia, for example, at UGA, but there are lots of other schools in the state of Georgia where you could get a master's and then end up in the same place down the road career-wise. So that's a decision to make. There are thesis and non-thesis graduate degrees, generally speaking. I would advocate thesis unless you have a really good reason not to. And then sometimes those positions are funded through research assistantships, and sometimes through teaching assistantships, and sometimes through a combination of the two. But these are things to figure out. And any of this stuff we can talk in more detail about during the Q&A. As a general rule, I would say that picking the right advisor, graduate advisor, and picking the right project for you is way more important than the particular school. Your future trajectory past grad school is going to hinge much more on what you did in graduate school and who your network is, who you worked with, than on whether you went to, an Auburn or any other school. So shop advisors and shop projects more than you do particular schools or more than you do particular geographic areas. And along the way, don't overlook smaller schools. So this is me promoting a school that's a little bit smaller, like a Georgia Southern, but we have plenty of master's students come through our biology department and end up working for the DNR and in the private sector doing fishy kinds of work and go on for PhDs. So there's lots of places where you can get the right kind of training. As you're looking for this training, I would encourage you to think of three things. You're trying to get KSNs, knowledge, skills, and network. And so really think, thoughtfully about any particular opportunity that you see on a job board or that you see on a listserv or whatever. What knowledge would I get out of that experience? What skills would I get to put on my resume? And who would be my network that I would gain? Who would I get to collaborate with along the way? Because those are large determinants of where you go from post-grad school. So let's say you've found some good candidate opportunities to look more into. What does the application look like? So I've got applying in quotation marks because grad school is a little bit different. The last thing you really want to do is just blindly apply to the program. So say you've found a master's assistantship advertised at Texas A&M job board, but it's at UGA. You don't just apply to UGA and be done with it. That's actually probably the last step. Once you and an advisor have made a match, and that advisor is going to be advocating for you through the graduate school, because otherwise you're just kind of wasting your money if you just apply without talking to advisors. But assuming you have found a project or not even a current opportunity, but you found someone who does the kind of stuff that interests you and you would like to work with them, well ahead of time for when you would like to start graduate school, get in touch with that person, email them early and often, stay in contact. And I don't mean weekly, but every couple of months or so, touching base again and indicating your renewed interest in their research and in a particular project that might be coming up. It shows that you're persistent, and it shows you're genuinely interested. You're not just kicking the tires. That's something I definitely look for in students. They contact me, say months in advance and say, oh, keep me posted if this is going to work out. And I'll say, okay, we'll circle back in a couple of months. And if they never circle back, I'm not going to circle back to them. So I'm relying on them to indicate their persistence. In these communiques, especially the first one, personalize your email, and that's generally how we make first contact with a potential advisor, is through an email. Personalize it. Say, I'm interested in these sorts of specific things that you do. I read your paper on whatever, and I'm interested in it for these reasons because it matches, these kinds of things that I want to do in life. Also, go ahead and send your CV or resume. Generally, I would say CV. And in that, and Hunter kind of indicated the same, you want to accentuate the positive, but you also don't want to hide important stuff. So if I guess on the negative side, if your GPA is only a 2.8, it's not as high as many advisors might like it to be, but it's not the end of the world. It's not something you want to lead with, but they're going to ask eventually anyway, so you might as well include that. And likewise, on the positive side, let's say you were an Eagle Scout or you have leadership experience in some extracurricular organization. Well, that's potentially beneficial to how good of a graduate student you could be. So include that as well. That's a positive thing you wouldn't want to hide. But all in all, you want to paint a picture of positivity and relevancy. You can expect some non-responses. If you email a dozen professors, it's quite possible that half of them will never get back to you. It's them, it's not you, it's them. And that probably tells you something about how much you would want to work with them if they won't respond to you. But it's a fact of life, so just expect it and don't get your feelings hurt because it just happens to everybody. So your goal throughout this whole process is to communicate to this potential future boss two things. One, how well the position fits you, how it would, help propel you toward the things that you're interested in and the career goal that you want, but also how you are the perfect fit for that position. You should be trying to sort of simultaneously paint both of those pictures so that that person just can't afford not to at least interview you. So let's say you've gotten pretty far along, you're a finalist, or maybe you're the only person that candidate advisor is talking to. What does the interview look like? And again, I've got interviewing in quotation marks because sometimes there is no formal interview for grad school. Maybe it's just sort of an agreement reached via email, or maybe they actually are going to phone or in-person interview several people. So it just sort of depends on the person, depends on the position. In my case, sometimes it gets to an official interview, and sometimes we just sort of strike an arrangement over email. So you never really know. But in either event, when it comes to that point where you're going to have that last important conversation, make sure you've done your homework. It's great to talk to a potential advisor's current and especially former students to get a good handle on what it's like to work in their lab. What's the culture? What are the expectations? You're likely to get a more candid response from former students. But current students often are useful too. Do your homework, read papers, understand what that person works on and what they seem to be passionate about. One of the easiest ways to form a positive impression on someone is to talk about something that they themselves are passionate about, and have your own talking points ready to go. And Hunter emphasized this: don't be caught like a deer in the headlights when you get asked, well, where are you going to be? Where do you want to be 5 years from now? Or any number of common interview questions. Kind of anticipate that and know what you want to say. Know where you would like to steer the conversation if asked. But you are interviewing them as well, and there's all kinds of good things to ask along the way. For example, what is their supervision style? Do they tend more toward the hands-on end of the spectrum, the hands-off end of the spectrum? Do they tend to check in daily, weekly? Because that's a really important part of the matching process between student and an advisor. What does their lab look like? Would you be one of two students, or do they have a huge lab of a dozen people with PhDs and postdocs? Because all of that affects, how much time you are going to get as an individual, and also who all you're going to be learning from, peers and near peers. What are the work expectations and opportunities going to be like? Are you mostly going to be focused on your own thesis project, or are you going to be asked to contribute to lots of different things? And you can view those as opportunities, or maybe you would prefer to focus on one thing. But at any rate, you'd want to know that. What does the funding look like? Is it a full ride for 2.5 years, or is it half funded and they're hoping for more grants? Things you would want to know. And is the funding solely through grants, or will you be expected to TA along the way? All the above can be great, but stuff you want to know. What opportunities will you have to collaborate with others, both other professors out there, agency folks? That's a great way to build your network, so you kind of want to know about that. And then what do that advisor students tend to go on to do? Do they tend to go on to PhDs, biologist positions, working in the private sector? Good to know, because that is a good indicator of kind of where that advisor's network tends to flow. And final thought here is that your goal here is to find the best match, not the perfect match, not the one and only position that you fit. There's lots of fish in the sea, and on both sides of this process, and I can speak from the advisor side, I'm not necessarily looking for the highest GPA or the highest GRE or the most experience. There's no one dimension. It's a matching process. And so just kind of trust the process and be yourself and be honest and transparent and follow some of these guidelines, and good luck. And that's it for me.
Awesome. Those are all really good points. And I especially like don't get too focused on just job boards and listservs for opportunities for grad school. I actually got my grad school opportunity just by having a network with the co-op unit at UGA and sending out an email and getting a bite and following up on that. So that's really real good advice. So next we're going to hear from Dr. Katie Lyons. She's a research scientist at the Georgia Aquarium. So Katie, if you want to just unmute and tell us a little bit about opportunities in the private sector.
Yeah, thank you for having me. So I'll speak from, again, the private sector. We're a nonprofit, but essentially it's kind of, I think, going to be a similar process for most zoos or aquariums if folks are interested in exploring opportunities there. So at our aquarium, we kind of have like 3 categories, if you will, that we might like bucket people in. So one is obviously volunteering, which obviously if you're volunteering, it's not a paid position. And then we have our paid staff, which those are kind of broken down into 3 categories themselves. So we have staff that are full-time. So that means you're working, 40 hours a week. Part-time, which is, less than 40 hours a week. And then we also have seasonal workers. So during the summer, for example, when there's extra help needed, that can have positions open up. So at the aquarium, you can find opportunities both on our website, but any of the like regular job search engines, those will also appear there as well. And then other opportunities that we have are paid internships. So those require a little bit more forethought, because we do plan those things several months in advance to when that's starting. So for example, for the summer interns, they had to have their applications, I think, in and interviews conducted by like early April. So, you kind of have to be on that ball if you're looking for that ahead of time. Again, every organization works a little bit differently. Whereas some of our other positions, so our part-time, full-time, seasonal, a lot of those are often rolling. So the window will be, open until the position's filled. Obviously seasonal, that will also be follow more of that internship model of several months in advance. And part of that has to do with all the paperwork that kind of comes along with doing that, which contrasts a little bit to what Dr. Roberts was talking about at academia, right? So in a private organization, you're going to have to go through things like a background check, as well as a drug test. So some of those like other things that you do need to think about that, when you're offered the job, there's other paperwork on that back end that has to happen before you can actually be hired. So in particular, just kind of coming back to the drug test thing, as we have different laws in different states, just remember that federally, whatever those drugs that you may or may not be playing with on your own time, you'll want to think about that when you're preparing yourself for that eventual drug test that you need to take. So just some things to like think about that are a little bit, again, different than graduate school per se. And then the the application process for a private organization is kind of very similar to what was talked about in the tips and tricks, right? There'll be a job, you'll go online, you'll apply for it. Oftentimes there'll be a cover letter that you'll write talking about yourself. So definitely would recommend not just copying and pasting, like the job title from one job into the same letter. Like you'll want to personalize it and really take a look at the required skills and the things that that particular job is looking for. We've had people that have applied to jobs that we've advertised in our department that are, like PhD preferred, and somebody's applying with a bachelor's degree. And it's like, you want to be honest and like sell yourself, but you don't want to like clearly like waste time or other people's times on jobs that like you're not like qualified for. So just kind of keeping some of those tips and tricks. At our aquarium, a college degree is required for every job that is a paid job. So that is something that, you want to make sure you have your transcripts in order and that those can easily be demonstrated. So given that, just like really quickly to kind of wrap up what, that interview process looks like. So it's usually an in-person or Zoom interview or a phone call. Sometimes that'll be followed up with a second interview where you're either invited to come to the actual location and meet with other staff. And then there's an offer that's provided, and then you go through with HR negotiations. So we were talking about how, maybe don't bring up salary at your interview, but certainly when you're getting your offer, that's kind of the place where you can talk about what the salary is. If you have a different idea of what that number is, then that's kind of where you can go back and forth at that particular point in time. And then again, like all the paperwork that comes after that with your background check, your drug screening, and then other pieces of information like W-2s. So kind of having, all of that in order. We also have to, demonstrate citizenship. So having a valid passport, some of those, again, other government documents that you need to like demonstrate that you can work legally is important to make sure you have that on hand. So I'll kind of wrap it up there from the private sector and pass it on to the next person. Thanks.
Thanks, Katie. So we're going to move on now to Chris Harper. He's the Assistant Chief of Fisheries with the Georgia DNR Wildlife Resources Division. So Chris, if you want to tell us about employment within DNR and WRD, have at it.
All righty. Hopefully everybody can see my screen there.
We can.
So yeah, a lot of really good information's been covered so far on, the interview process, the application processes, things like that. So I will reiterate what Jamie and Hunter said though. Using your contacts, using your networks. I also went through grad school, not through an advertised position. I reached out to a professor that I wanted to work with. Waited for his email to come back and started those conversations with him. So really does work. So I'm going to talk a little bit about job opportunities. Really, I should caveat this. I'm being a representative for the entire Department of Natural Resources. I work for the freshwater fisheries management section. So really that's what I'm going to be focusing on. But there are fisheries opportunities within the Coastal Resources Division and also within the wildlife conservation section, working with mussels and non-game species. So starting off though, here in Georgia, we've got a lot of different resources available to us. 500,000 acres of reservoirs, 12,000 miles of warm water streams, cold water trout streams, more than 4,000 miles. And we actually cater to or work for about 1.3 million different anglers. My screen is not advancing. Let's see if I can get it to go this way. There we go. Okay, so our top priority as a section is having satisfied anglers out on the water. So we work really hard to provide great fishing opportunities while also conserving species of that need to be conserved out there. So we do have a great diversity of different resources within the state, starting up in the mountains, coming down through the Piedmont and the fall line area, all the way down to the coastal area swamps and reservoirs and rivers of Southwest Georgia. So along with that comes a great diversity of opportunities for our employees. So as prospective candidates, you can see some of the opportunities where you'd have to work. There's always fish sampling going on. There's hatchery work, the trout programs, just a long list of different areas where we need different people providing services. And so one great thing about working for the fisheries management section, DNR as a whole, is that we do provide a lot of opportunities to really touch in all of these areas. So you may be hired as a field technician, but you're going to get opportunities to work on hatcheries. You're going to get opportunities to work on public fishing areas. You'll get opportunities to engage with the public through fishing events, or you'll get opportunities to work on research projects. So the experiences vary greatly. Just kind of highlighting the structure of DNR. So there are 5 different divisions within DNR. And so I mentioned the Coastal Resources Division. Great opportunities if you enjoy working with marine species to go and work with CRD. We fall under the Wildlife Resources Division. And so the Fisheries Management section, also the Wildlife Conservation section, I mentioned them earlier. They work with non-game species, whereas the Fisheries Management section, we work with all of the game species of fish, freshwater fish. So in the Fisheries Management section, we have about 120 full-time employees, and then the number of hourly employees that we have varies greatly. We have some year-round hourly employees that work up to 29 hours a week, and then we also employ a lot of seasonal employees that maybe working with the stream team, going out and sampling our wadable streams through the summer. And so they're going to work 40 hours a week for a certain period of time throughout the year. Generally speaking, our positions are broken down into biologists, technicians, and admin support. Your biologist positions typically are going to be master's level positions. These are the people that are going to plan projects. They're going to plan the work that needs to be done. They're going to help design research projects and then run the analysis at the end of a field season. Whereas your technicians, those are going to be more associate and bachelor's degree level positions. They're going to assist biologists out with the field work. They're going to help maintain equipment. They may be working on hatcheries or public fishing areas, managing those bodies of water, while also doing things like grounds maintenance and maintaining all the equipment. And then not to be overlooked is our admin and support. They really are the backbone of our section. They make sure that all of our biologists and technicians can go out and do the work that they need to do. So very important positions. So where to apply? We post our jobs on the usual job boards. So the Department of Natural Resources has a website dedicated to all of our job postings. We also post at Texas A&M, which was mentioned earlier. We post through the Warnell School of Forestry on their job board at UGA. And then the Georgia chapter of AFS also will post all of our job announcements, which are then subsequently put out through the Southern Division listserv. And so hopefully, if you're a member of Georgia AFS, you've been added to that listserv because you're also a member of the Southern Division AFS. And so you should be getting those job announcements. But our process is once you see a job announcement for a position that you're interested in, then you would go online, fill out our application, get it sent in by the deadline. If you miss the deadline, then we can't consider you for the position. And then as long as you meet all the job requirements, then we'll set up an interview for you. Those interviews can be in person or virtual. I would recommend, if it's within a short driving distance, show up in person. A lot of times the technical glitches can cause distractions during interviews, things like that. And just being able to sit face to face and kind of adds a little bit more personal touch to the interview process. If you are the selected candidate, or actually the top couple of candidates, like Katie mentioned earlier, we're going to do reference checks. We're going to do background checks. So just know that ahead of time. Jamie mentioned not hiding things. So, if there's something that you think may pop up, then, go ahead and bring it up, and that's something that we can talk through. So, our process can take, to get through the human resources department, takes 2 or 3 weeks. And so once you interview, it's going to be probably 3 weeks before you hear anything back from us. But yeah, that's kind of highlighting the opportunities that you have here with Georgia DNR. Lots of great opportunities, and always have positions that are coming open. So that's all I have, Hunter.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris. And I will say that, speaking to some other biologists in other states, one thing unique about Georgia is that opportunity to get outside of your comfort zone, your work unit. And for example, if you're a field biologist, work with hatcheries, work with the outreach folks. That is unique to the state, that I've come to find in having conversations with other folks that work in other state agencies. So I'm grateful for those opportunities. I was going to ask Jamie, for those applying to grad school, there's a learning curve, obviously, for students that are going from undergrad to grad school. And so I was just going to ask, what do you think the most challenging part is of that transition, and how can undergraduate students really sell themselves during kind of an interview process, or sit down with their prospective major professor to say, yeah, I'm ready for this transition. These are the skills and strengths I bring to the table for that.
Good question. What's the most challenging thing? I don't know. I guess I'll start by saying you just have to look at it. It's philosophically just totally different from undergrad. And I think some students just have a harder time getting over that hump of switching gears from I'm a student to I'm basically an apprentice. I'm sort of a scientist in training, or a biologist in training, and going from, here's what you do, take all these classes and you're done, to here's what I need to sort of seek out in order to, become the best, biologist I can. Looking at everything as sort of a learning opportunity, and approaching it in a more professional manner. I think that shift in mindset is the main thing to try to do. And maybe getting there, it helps if you interact with grad students while you're an undergrad. I mean, I think some of the best grad students are people who who sort of lived in that world a little bit as undergrads, but not everybody goes to an undergraduate institution where you're exposed to that. And so that's why we have programs like REUs and other summer opportunities to expose people from primarily undergrad institutions to kind of what academic science looks like.
Okay, well, that's a really good suggestion for undergrads to think about. Look for opportunities to collaborate with current grad students, even if they're outside of your school, just to demonstrate, hey, I got a good grasp of what this entails by my interactions and working with current grad students. So
yeah,
good advice there. All right, what other questions do we have from those participating?
Just a quick little question, Hunter. That presentation at the very beginning. Where is that can be found? That can be found on Georgia AFS website.
Yep.
The
It's going to be georgiaafs.org/interviewing tips. So if
Okay.
you just go to georgiaafs.org, there's a pathway to our interviewing tips webpage. But yeah, georgiaafs.org/interviewing-tips will get you there too.
Great, thank you.
Absolutely. Just gonna offer some more time for any other questions while y'all are thinking about it. Thank you, Jackson, for providing that link. Katie, I was gonna ask you, when people think about employment opportunities at the Georgia Aquarium, they probably think those opportunities exist exclusively at the Georgia Aquarium. But you were saying you were just getting back from the field. So can you speak to whether it's just for your kind of shark work unit or other research opportunities, what those are to get outside of the facility and into the field?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it definitely depends on the department. So obviously, guest-facing services usually are like pretty restricted to the building. But for example, earlier this week, I was out with our dive operations team. So we have a whole unit that does diving and dive maintenance and everything related to scuba diving. But we were out deploying some receivers along the coast of Georgia. So there are other opportunities. I know the vet team has their own research project. So they have a manatee project that they work on that they get to go help. We have husbandry folks that have helped with rehabbing animals. So like the turtles recently with their cold shock, we have some turtles that we rehab and then they get an opportunity to go release those out to the wild. So it kind of does vary by the department, but certainly I think more people are thinking about how do we extend opportunities for people in the building, but like outside the building.
Cool. Thank you for elaborating on that. It looks like Lily has a question. I think you can, just unmute and fire away, Lily.
Okay, I was just wondering if there is anything specific or like stand out that especially within like the DNR region you would look for with a resume or a cover letter or a CV.
Sounds like a good question for Chris.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that there's necessarily anything specific like with the cover letter. The resume, obviously we want to see that you you meet the minimum qualifications and that you have experience with that particular job that we're trying to hire. I think for me, what I'm looking for when I conduct my interviews, I'm looking for somebody that has good critical thinking skills and is a good problem solver. I'm looking for somebody that knows how to take direction, but that I also see leadership potential in. Regardless of the position that I'm hiring, it could be the low, the entry level job at say a fish hatchery. When I hire that position, I'm looking for a future hatchery manager, not somebody that's just going to show up and have to be told what to do every single day. So, but yeah, really, I think Hunter hit it pretty good with state agencies, particularly opportunities for volunteering or doing internships. There are plenty of opportunities for that. And so getting some experience, in these types of fields is going to be really helpful to put on your resume and also to be able to talk about during your interview.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Harper.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for that question, Lily. Do we have any other folks that have some questions for the panel?
Hey, can you hear me, Hunter?
Yes, Marion, we can hear you. Go ahead.
I'm kind of a rare case. I was in the private consultant for 14 years, and I'll just have a bachelor's degree. I know a lot of the state jobs, they require a master's. I've recently actually, interviewed with Georgia DNR. Not bearing no weight on that, but is it possible to get a biologist position in the state of Georgia with the DNR without a master's in lieu of field experience? Does that carry a significant amount of weight, or is it more just kind of more of a, you've got to have a master's to be considered a biologist?
No, so the minimum requirements for a biologist position with DNR is going to be a bachelor's degree.
Yes.
And so, you know, that, but it's a bachelor's degree plus a year of experience, you know, that's equivalent to biologist work. And so that's really kind of the hang up for a lot of people. But, you know, if through your resume and your job application, you can show that, you know, you have this experience that really is in line with the work that we're asking someone to do, you know, that could qualify you for the interview.
Yes, sir. I've interviewed with Georgia DNR, and I've interviewed with Alabama DNR, and with the Florida division of their version of the DNR. And I'm just trying to gain that experience as I go, because again, I'm kind of a strange case. I come from a private sector, and I'm trying to jump into the state sector. I really just want to focus on getting a fisheries career. That's what my degree was in, and done a lot of backpack shocking and captaining the shock boats and things like that. But I was just wondering on my end, I've had numerous interviews. I'm just trying to make sure I'm covering all my bases when I interview with everybody.
Absolutely. I'd say don't give up, and, you know, happy to talk with you offline, you know, another time if that's something you'd be interested in, and, you know, talk about opportunities and what you can do to, you know, make yourself you know, a little bit more of a viable candidate.
Well, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for offering that, Chris, and thank you for your question, Marion. I think you made a good connection there. And Celia, you have a question. Is everyone okay with the time? We're at 12:03. We're a little bit over. I mean, for anyone that's attending that needs to leave, we certainly understand. But as far as the panel goes, are y'all all good? Okay.
I can do about 5 to 10 more minutes, and then I'll have to scoot. Yeah.
Okay. We understand.
I'm good.
Thank you. Celia, it's good to see you on. If you want to go ahead and ask your question.
Sure, yeah. So I've been working mostly in software engineering. That's what my degree is in. And I was wondering if there's like any jobs related to that, or something in that sort of like data analyst kind of thing. Seems like most of the jobs are like, I don't know, like wet lab stuff, but is there any dry lab opportunities?
So software engineering, looking for some fisheries opportunities. You know, I'll just say biologists working in R is essentially, you know, somewhat of a software engineer. I mean, you're writing scripts and telling the computer what to do. But let's let some of the panelists think about that.
I would say from the state side, you're probably your best bet is going to be the federal system or the private sector. But, you know, we do have a GIS team that we work with. And currently we don't have a statistician on staff. That is something that we would like to get back at some point, is having a statistician that runs all the data analysis for us.
Thanks for those questions, Celia. Do we have any other folks with a burning question? Because we are 8 minutes over time now. It's been awesome to have some of this interaction. I know some of these students looking for jobs and opportunities really appreciate that opportunity. So any other last minute questions? Okay, well, I think I will officially call this a success. Thank you to our panelists for attending and presenting. Thank you for everyone else who's participated and watched. This recording will be available on our website. So for anyone who missed this, or anyone attending who knows of someone who missed it, we should have this up and online and viewable. And we hope to offer more opportunities like this with Georgia AFS in the future through our workshops and continuing education. So thanks again for everyone attending, and we will see you next time.